Have you ever noticed how so many people want to change their lives but stay trapped in the same mental patterns over and over again? It's almost ironic. Inside the human brain lies the very key to transformation, yet most people don't know how to use it. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity. And here's the shocking part. Your brain can be reprogrammed like software, but if you don't learn how to do it, you'll keep running old programs of insecurity, procrastination, and lack of discipline. Think about it. It's not a lack of intelligence that holds you back. It's the absence of a method to strengthen your mind. And that's the core of this video. You're going to understand how to use neuroplasticity to create a brain that's strong, unbreakable, and ready to face any challenge. Forget empty motivational quotes or shallow promises. We're talking about science applied to real life, with practical examples anyone can use. If you've ever believed that mental strength is a gift for just a few people, get ready to discover that it's actually a skill, one that anyone can train and develop. Throughout this video, I'll show you how your thoughts carve invisible roots in your brain, how repetition and emotion build new patterns, and which daily practices you can adopt to transform the way you think. It's like learning how to hack your own brain, using what science has already proven. And if you stick with me until the end, you'll realize that having a bulletproof mind isn't luck, it's method. So let's start at the beginning. What exactly is neuroplasticity, and why can it change your life once and for all? Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to adapt, create new connections, and even reorganize itself when exposed to different stimuli and experiences. For a long time, people believed that after a certain age, the mind became rigid, incapable of learning or transforming. Today, science proves the exact opposite. At every moment, new synapses can be formed and old patterns can be replaced. It's as if the brain were fertile soil, ready to receive new seeds as long as you know what to plant and how to take care of the process. This concept destroys the excuse that someone is just like that and can't change. If a person struggles with focus, discipline, or self-confidence, that's not a life sentence. These are simply neural pathways strengthened by the repetition of old habits. Neuroplasticity shows that it's possible to build alternative routes, faster, stronger, and aligned with your goals. It's like swapping out bumpy, broken roads for modern highways where the mind can move with clarity and power. The most fascinating part is that it doesn't require huge internal revolutions. Small daily actions can trigger deep changes. When you learn a new skill, expose yourself to new environments, or adopt simple mental practices, you're already reshaping the structure of your brain. In practice, this means anyone can reinvent themselves no matter their starting point, and that is one of the most liberating discoveries in modern neuroscience. Now think about how this applies to mental strength. If your mind has grown used to giving up easily, sabotaging itself, or falling into procrastination, it's because those patterns were reinforced countless times. But the same way they were built, they can be dismantled. Replacing them with paths of discipline, courage, and clarity isn't just possible. It's inevitable when you consistently practice neural reprogramming. Neuroplasticity also proves that the brain functions like a muscle. It responds to training. If you repeatedly expose yourself to challenges, cultivate positive thinking habits, and feed productive emotions, your mind grows more resilient. But if you give in to comfort, mental laziness, and autopilot, those are the muscles that get stronger. The brain doesn't choose for you, it simply strengthens what you repeat. And here's the key. Understanding what neuroplasticity is already opens a window of opportunity. But the real breakthrough happens when you realize that every thought you repeat either reinforces or weakens a neural wire. That's why in the next step, we'll dive into how thoughts alone have the power to physically shape your brain's connections and define the quality of your life. Every thought that crosses your mind isn't just abstract. It triggers electrical signals that travel through neurons, and create connections between them. These connections, called synapses, get stronger each time the same thought is repeated. It's like hammering a nail over and over in the same spot. Eventually, it becomes firmly fixed. That's why recurring thoughts of fear, doubt, or insecurity end up building mental highways that always lead you back to the same place, a cycle of weakness and limitation. But here's the other side. Thoughts of confidence, clarity, and discipline can also turn into solid highways in the brain. The difference lies in which type of idea you repeat most often. It's like deciding whether to water a healthy plant or a weed. The brain doesn't judge what's good or bad. It simply reinforces what you feed it. If you tell yourself every day, "I can't do it," that route becomes easier and faster to travel. But if you start telling yourself the opposite, a new pathway is created that can, over time, take over as the dominant one. This mechanism explains why old patterns feel so hard to break. They've been reinforced through years of repetition. Imagine someone who, since childhood, constantly heard phrases like, "You'll never make it." Those words became thoughts, the thoughts became beliefs, and today they're recorded in the brain as quick access routes. The good news? The same brain that learned that pattern can learn a different one. It can unlearn, reconfigure, and reorganize itself in response to new commands. When you understand this, you start to see that thought isn't just a reflection of what happens outside. It's an active force that shapes your internal reality. The brain creates shortcuts to save energy, and that's why it tends to repeat the same reactions. The choice is yours. Will these shortcuts lead you to procrastination or discipline, to self-sabotage or confidence? That decision happens in the realm of your daily thoughts. Simple examples make this clear. Someone who constantly sees themselves as incapable will naturally avoid challenges. But someone who trains their mind to think, "I can learn anything," opens the door to new experiences and growth. In both cases, the brain is recording, repeating, and strengthening those circuits. In the end, you're not just living life. You're training your brain to reinforce the life you believe you deserve. And this brings us to the real power of repetition. If a single thought can shape your brain, imagine the impact of repeating it constantly, fueled by energy and emotion. That's the fuel that turns simple ideas into unshakable convictions. And that's exactly what we'll explore in the next topic. Why repetition and emotion are the most powerful secrets to reprogram your mind. Repetition is what transforms a simple thought into a deep conviction. Each time you repeat an idea, whether positive or negative, you strengthen the neural connection that supports it. Think of walking through a field of grass. At first, the path is barely visible, but with constant steps, a clear trail appears. The brain works the same way. The more you walk a mental path, the more automatic it becomes. That's the science behind how habits are formed. But repetition alone isn't enough. Emotion is the factor that locks the experience in place. When you attach a strong feeling to a thought, the brain releases neurotransmitters that tag that memory as important. That's why you remember emotional moments of your life in vivid detail. In the same way, when you repeat an affirmation charged with confidence, enthusiasm, or gratitude, it takes root much more firmly than a phrase spoken mechanically. Practical examples make this easy to see. Imagine someone repeating, "I am confident," but doing it flatly like a robot. It has little effect. Now picture that same person closing their eyes, breathing deeply, and truly feeling the sense of security in their body, as if the victory had already happened. In that case, the brain records it as real. This fusion of repetition and emotion creates such a vivid experience that it becomes hard to erase. And the more it's practiced, the stronger the new pattern becomes. That's why top athletes train their minds as much as their bodies. They visualize the victory, mentally repeat every movement, and feel the thrill of winning before the competition even begins. This isn't just motivation, it's neuroscience in action. They are programming their brains to believe and respond as if success were already achieved. That inner conviction massively increases the chances of external results. The same principle applies to everyday life. Someone struggling with procrastination can design a daily ritual of affirmations and visualizations, pairing it with the pride of completing small tasks. By feeling genuine satisfaction in each micro-action, the brain begins to associate discipline with pleasure instead of burden. Over time, this emotional pattern takes root and rewires the idea that action is exhausting. This union of repetition and emotion is what turns effort into habit, habit into identity, and identity into destiny. But none of it happens by accident. It requires conscious choices and consistent practices that keep reinforcing the new patterns. And that brings us to the next step: the daily habits that can strengthen your mental power and lock this reprogramming process in place. A strong mind isn't born by chance. It's trained every single day through simple, consistent practices. The first and most effective is focused meditation. Just a few minutes a day of mindful attention is enough to reduce mental noise and create space for the brain to reorganize its circuits. People who practice regularly notice they react less impulsively and gain more clarity to make decisions. It's like hitting a reset button, preparing the mind to handle pressure without losing inner balance. Another powerful practice is strategic visualization. It's not about daydreaming vaguely. It's about mentally rehearsing the exact scenario you want, in detail: how you act, what you say, how you feel. This mental simulation activates the same brain areas as real experiences, strengthening the pathways of confidence and action. The more vivid the visualization, the more the brain believes it's possible. Elite athletes, leaders, and entrepreneurs rely on this as a daily performance tool. Conscious affirmations are also essential. Unlike generic phrases repeated without emotion, they need to be clear, specific, and spoken out loud, ideally in front of a mirror. When you declare, "I am disciplined," or "my mind is resilient," the brain receives it as a direct command. Paired with emotion, this daily exercise acts like a password that unlocks new patterns. Over time, these affirmations stop being external statements and become internal truths. Taking care of your environment is another critical practice. Your brain constantly responds to external stimuli. If you're surrounded by negativity, chaotic news, or endless distractions, your mental energy drains and weak patterns get reinforced. But if you design your space, filter the content you consume, and spend time with inspiring people, you create fertile ground for growth. Small environmental shifts often trigger massive changes in the brain's ability to adapt and stay strong. Keeping a gratitude journal is also a game changer. Writing down 3 things you're grateful for every night activates brain regions linked to well-being and optimism. This strengthens circuits that make you more solution-oriented instead of problem-focused. Over time, this trains your mind to naturally spot opportunities instead of obstacles. Gratitude isn't just feel-good advice. It's a mental workout that shapes the brain to be resilient. These daily practices work like mental weightlifting. The more consistent you are, the stronger your mind becomes. It's not about instant results, but about trusting the process. In time, your brain grows more focused, organized, and resistant to distraction. But to fully understand why these practices work so effectively, we need to take one more step. When we talk about mental strength, we're not dealing with magic or vague theories. We're talking about science in action. Neuroscience shows that the brain is adaptable and responds to stimuli as predictably as a muscle under training. Every repeated habit, every felt emotion, every cultivated thought leaves a physical mark on the neural network. This means discipline, confidence, and resilience are not gifts you're born with, but skills that anyone can develop through intention and practice. Cognitive neuroscience research confirms that specific brain regions are activated, depending on the type of mental training performed. People who Practice focused attention, for example. Increase the density of the prefrontal cortex, the area linked to self-control and decision-making. Meanwhile, those who cultivate positive emotions strengthen circuits connected to motivation and well-being. In simple terms, science proves that you can literally train your brain to think, feel, and act in more productive ways. Another crucial point is the integration between body and mind. Studies reveal that physical exercise not only strengthens muscles, but also stimulates the growth of new neural connections. That's because movement releases neurotransmitters that boost brain plasticity. This means even simple activities like walking, playing sports, or stretching regularly can become powerful tools to sharpen mental health and cognitive performance. But the mind isn't influenced only by the body. The environment plays a decisive role too. Neuroscientists highlight that enriched contexts, full of challenges, learning, and positive interactions, expand the neural network and speed up mental strength development. In practice, choosing your content, conversations, and daily routines carefully isn't a minor detail. It's an active part of reprogramming your brain. The brain feeds on whatever you allow in. Science also sheds light on the role of emotion as a catalyst. Memory studies show that emotionally charged experiences are more easily stored and retrieved by the brain. That's why when you pair emotion with mental practices like affirmations or visualization, the results multiply. The blend of repetition and emotion has a clear biological basis, not just an intuitive one. It's what turns a simple idea into a conviction, and a conviction into consistent action. In the end, combining science and neuroscience means understanding that mental strength isn't luck, but method. The brain responds to repeated patterns of discipline, clarity, and emotion. That's the key to building an unbreakable mind and a more organized, productive life. And now that you have all the pieces in your hands, it's time to tie this knowledge together with a clear and practical conclusion that inspires you to act starting to. Now it all comes together. Neuroplasticity is not some distant theory. It's a real tool you can use to reshape your life. Every thought you choose, every emotion you cultivate, and every habit you repeat acts as a command that reprograms your brain. From today on, the question is no longer, can I change? But rather, which patterns will I choose to strengthen? The truth is, mental strength isn't a rare talent. It's a trainable skill. If you want more discipline, clarity, and resilience, all it takes is applying the practices we covered here. Focused meditation, strategic visualization, conscious affirmations, designing a productive environment, and keeping a gratitude journal. None of these require extraordinary effort, but they do demand consistency. And that consistency is what sculpts your brain and transforms small efforts into lasting results. Now imagine where your life could be 6 months from now if you started today. Which fears would have already lost their grip? Which projects would finally be off the ground? And how would it feel to live with a mind shielded against distractions and doubts? These aren't just questions, they're invitations for you to act. So don't let this knowledge stay in theory. Put it into practice and watch your reality change. And if this video gave you clarity, make sure to subscribe to Mindyfest and turn on notifications so you never miss a step in strengthening your mind and expanding your results. Your brain is ready, your future is waiting,